Hello and welcome to How to Lead Your Business with Peter Cox. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. How will you lead them? Join us for this podcast where we dive deep into business leadership. This is the podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs learn how to grow their leadership to unlock business and personal growth, empower teams and drive success. Whether you're a startup or scaling to the next level, we've got the insights, the strategies, the intellectual property you need to grow in leadership, to fuel your team and fuel your business to go to the next level. Let's get into this. Welcome to How to Lead Your Business, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with high-performing leaders, founders and entrepreneurs to uncover what it really takes to build, lead and scale a successful business. I'm your host, Coxie from Leadership Dynamics. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Vanessa Richards, co-founder of Birdley, a dynamic entrepreneur, C-suite leader, and someone I've had the privilege of knowing for over a decade. From starting her journey at just 12 years of age to building a 20-plus year career across media, technology, travel and startups, Vanessa brings energy, clarity and a relentless drive to create and lead at the highest level. In this episode, we unpack belief, leadership, scaling, resilience, and what it truly takes to back yourself and build something meaningful, even when others don't see the vision yet. If you're a business owner looking to grow your influence, your team and your business, this podcast is for you. Make sure you subscribe to How to Lead Your Business so you never miss an episode. Let's dive in. Welcome to another How to Lead Your Business podcast with Coxie. A very special guest I've got here, a powerhouse lady in business, co-founder of Birdley, Vanessa Richards, that I've known for 10 years. We first met when she had a big digital marketing role with one of the Leadership Dynamics clients that I was involved in, and that was in 2016. And here we are 10 years later. Vanessa, welcome to Coxie's podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Coxie. Can you believe it's been 10 years?
10
it's
years.
Nuts, isn't it?
I remember the day you walked into that boardroom on level 26 at Bondi Junction. I was looking out over the harbour or whatever, and you just come bouncing in, and you're still the same bouncy, powerful lady. And, you've got some great things to share with our audience today about leadership and culture and drive. And I just want you to tell us a little bit about your story and your journey and how you ended up being a co-founder of Birdley.
Yeah, no, look, happy to talk through it. And I am still that bouncy person, I've always been very extroverted, very much full of life, and I've carried that with me. But I think, my story is a really interesting one. And at its core, I've always been someone who wanted to make things happen. And I think you know that. I'm a really, really driven person. So over the past 22 years, I've built my career across media, technology, travel, startups, e-commerce. I was 15 years as a C-suite, two-time founder, two-time founding team member. I've lived and worked across Australia, the world. But I think it all comes back to those, foundation years. And it started back in Newcastle where I grew up. I have parents, they're my best mates. I just adore them and I'm very, very lucky and blessed. But they believed in me, they backed me, they waved my flag. And I think, that kind of belief really does shape you, especially early on in your life. And it gives you the confidence and that responsibility to kind of go out there and tackle the world and do whatever you want to do. So I really did have that support behind me. And I always matched their belief into the belief I had in people and into my work. I've always worked really hard, really smart, and been intentional about what I've done. But I love to create. If you strip all the other stuff back, I just love creating things and bringing things into the world that just don't exist or didn't exist before, which is why I was drawn to entrepreneurship from a really young age. It's quite funny now. Now I'm a mother, I laugh at myself, but I used to sell my older sister and her friends tickets to watch my dance performances. Now, I'm not talking dance recitals at the end of the year, you know, your big theatre productions. I'm talking about in our living room at our house. So I would monetize my own skill to my own family member. It's quite funny. I'd also throw, you know, lemonade stands out the front of the house, but very Vanessa style. I'd always level it up. So I'd make my dad and his mates, who were all brilliantly talented musicians, play to draw buyers into the stand out the front of the house, you know. And I grew up in a house full of music, so they're playing the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, Sabbath, Midnight Oil. You know, I'm a rock girl, and so I grew up in this rock household. So we're running these lemonade stands with a real vibe. So I was always driven by that kind of momentum. And I was really good at school. I excelled in school. I did very well. Even in the sports that I played, I came from a very athletic family. I was a state swimmer, surf life saving champion, rep netballer, dancer, you know, you name it, I did it all. So over time, I learned not just to obviously follow that momentum, but start creating that momentum. And it really came down to me sitting down with myself. And this was pre kind of that first stage in my career and going, what do I want? I want a full life, not just a successful one, but a full one where I could create and do the things that I love to do, but actually make meaningful change, experience things deeply. You know me so well. You know I need to experience things. It's just who I am to my core, and actually do work that meant something. So I love to hustle. That was pretty much out there, but I secured my first casual job at 12 at David Jones in the cosmetics counter. And I was very fortunate to learn how to do makeup, but none other than Napoleon Purtis himself. Then at 16, I was studying media studies as part of an elective in high school. So instead of just, you know, being book smart and doing the book work for it, I actually wanted the practical experience. It wasn't part of the elective to do that. I took it upon myself, reached out to the local radio station, and they actually brought me in on some work experience. I impressed them so much on day one that they then put me into their community switchboard. Now, this was the place where you're putting up garage sales or you're talking about local sporting events that are coming up. And then within a couple of weeks, I'd worked my way into the promotions and marketing team. I was the youngest person that I'd ever hired in that radio station. So I started as a Thunder pilot. Do you remember the Thunder pilots that were part of the Austereo network? So it was, you know, hey, it's Ness out on the street. I got icy cold cans of Coca-Cola. I got your fresh tip-top bread thanks to our friends at the Whole Foods Centre. You'll catch me cruising down the coast, pulling up to the surfers at Merriweather Beach car park. Come and check me out. So I started doing that to then 4 a.m. outside broadcast, setting that up for the talent, celebrity interviews, station events, program rebrands, all the way through to late nights behind the mic. Now, I did all of this by studying, you know, in high school, then into university. I did a Bachelor of Communication with law, and at one point thought I was going to be a lawyer, but the entertainment industry drew me in. But I grew through that period from coordinator to manager to then director. It was a little mad, but I thrive in those really busy environments, and that did set the tone.
You spoke about belief, how much your parents believed in you. And when I hear where you are tracking on your journey right now, how much belief, someone believing you, how important was that? Because it doesn't matter what anyone else believes. It only matters what you believe. And I've known you for 10 years and you've always believed in yourself, Vanessa. You've never not believed in yourself. And if you want to be an owner of a business, if you want to lead teams, you want influence, first you've got to believe in yourself before you believe in others. So how important is belief?
Belief's one of the single most important things for everyone. And if you don't believe in yourself, others won't believe in you. You need to back yourself wholeheartedly. Take those risks. Know that you can achieve greatness. And it's having that confidence that really does set you up for life. And you hit the nail on the head. You know, you can have other people believe in you, but if you don't believe in yourself, it's worth absolutely nothing, which is why so many people need to do that inner work on themselves to get to a place where they can really start to grow and become better versions of themselves. But I've always had it. I think I was born with it. I never had fear. I would always throw myself into these situations, willing, able, ready to go and lock in. There was never a self-doubt in my mind. And I know that I'm a really lucky person because some people really do battle through that. But for me, it was always there. It was always there. And, everything was hard work. Nothing's ever been handed on a silver platter. Everything's really been me driving that force with every opportunity that's come my way. And I've done some amazing things throughout my career. A lot of the time people will go, how old are you? How old are you? You've done all that. And I go, yeah, I have, because I started really early and I kept building and I kept bettering myself and I kept growing. We all have a choice. We all can do these amazing things and put ourselves in these situations. But, it really just comes down to if you want it.
And now, you look at where you are in your life and you're a mum. When I met you 10 years ago, you weren't a mum. How's motherhood changed your trajectory of your life? Because you're a very driven person, and you still haven't lost your drive. You've probably got more drive with having a kid.
I really do. Look, I think becoming a mum's been the greatest thing I've ever done. It really is. Nothing in the world compares to bringing my little daughter Ava into this world. She's the light in my life. She is absolute joy, and I'm so proud of her. It hasn't been simple, though. I didn't take maternity leave. I was building my startup whilst I was pregnant, launching with her, doing things that most people wouldn't be able to do. But I pushed myself to do it. And that's why that drive exists within me. I just think, though, being a mum has led me to become more intentional. I would always take on quite a lot. And my husband would probably sit here and laugh and say, yeah, you still do. But I think having Ava's really allowed me to put my energy into the right things at the right times versus taking it all on at once, because I need to be able to compartmentalize and give her that time. But it really has, I think, improved even how I operate in my leadership by having her. She's really been it's an eye-opening experience in every possible way. But I do it all as well for her. Everything I do now, once upon a time I was doing it for myself, and that's great. But now I do it for her.
And how important has it been your husband's support? Like, he had a big role right?
He's been in radio. Yeah, he's been in radio for 25 years in so many areas, and he's one of the best in this country. And he's amazing. He's my rock. Most people, and it doesn't matter what gender you are, but going into a startup and leaving C-suite salaries and security and saying, hey, we're going to put all of our life, our savings, our time, our energy into something that might not work, and not take a salary, go back to a single income household while having a baby. Most people be like, no, are you joking? But I remember having this conversation with Mike. We went for a walk down where we live in the Sutherland Shire, and I said, I've been building this for a really long time. I've got all this data over the last, 5+ years in tourism. I obviously had the first business, which was kind of phase one of this. I think now's the time to do it after we're coming out of the pandemic. And he went, do it. Now's the time. We will make it work. Whatever we need to do, we will do. I support you. I am here for you.
So you got Mike believing in you as well, then, haven't you?
I do. I'm very lucky. Lucky.
Because you only need one person to believe in you to do something great in your life. And the sad part about life, if you're a business owner out there, is that a lot of people don't have anyone believing in them.
No, they don't. And it can become quite complex for them when they're in that situation, because they've got to keep churning those wheels themselves. Because even if you are the most confident person and you are risk averse and you know what you're doing, there's still going to be days that rock you and take you down, and you're sitting there going, what am I doing? Why have I done this? The logic of security and all the money you used to have just sits there dangling its carrot over you. So you do need that cheer squad kind of going, get back up. You can do it, and it's the stuff that you do a lot of the time with your coaching. You need to be able to lift people up. And I'm really lucky that I have a real great support network in my family and my husband.
And what is leadership to you?
Oh, it's a big thing to me. I don't believe leadership is a title. I think it's a way of being, and I think it's something that is definitely within you. It's how you show up every single day. Mm-hmm. It's not something that you can sporadically just go, I'm going to wear the leadership hat today, now I'll go and do my thing. It's every single day. Mm-hmm. It's in the small moments, it's the unseen moments, because that's what compounds into something so much bigger, particularly within your business and with your teams. So I've always believed, and this by leading by example. I don't think that's a philosophy. I think it has to be a standard. The way you think, the way you communicate, the way that you handle the pressure that comes with running a business or running a team, the way you follow through or turn up. It's getting your hands dirty with your team, not sitting in that ivory tower. People see and they feel all of it. And over time, that really does become the culture of your business, because they don't just do what you say, they do what you consistently show. And I think in that it's about earning their trust, gaining their respect. Sometimes it might require, a lot of discipline and consistency. It's not always straightforward and straight cut. It requires the ability to carry pressure without letting that pressure spill into the team, because, again, you're high stakes. You are running an organization and so many things come with that, but you can't filtrate that down to the team. But, I think it's also about caring about the people. I really do care about building people up.
You do. I saw that.
So much time and energy into them. I think, and you've seen so much of it, 10 years and of me in varying roles, but I think it is one of my greatest strengths, and I'm really passionate about it. I've led teams across multiple industries, so they're not always the same industries, different countries, many different types of people, different growth stages, pressure, no pressure, lots of money. And, I think it's the best people who are empowered. They're not managed. Something so many people will still get wrong. It's empower your people. And that really does filtrate through to a successful organization. It's giving them ownership really early on. It's backing them before they back themselves, sometimes putting them in situations or rooms where they have to step up. They don't think they can do it, but they can do it because you see that within them, and being really transparent, honest and open. Again, leadership is one of those things that it's just, you've got to put so much of yourself into it. You've got to communicate so clearly, set the standard, let them know who you are, what you believe in, get to know them, understand who they are, what they believe in, so you can then get the best output and become a
absolutely spot on. And the truth about leadership is you must have discipline and focus on those behaviours that drive results. If you only focus on the results you want to achieve will not happen. Leadership is about discipline on behaviours. As a leader, as a business owner, every single day, what did you do to grow a better behavior? What did you do to become a better version of yourself so that your team wants to continue to follow you? It's about authenticity. It's about being the real deal. And you've got to grow yourself. First, you must lead yourself better before you can lead others. What's 3 key leadership behaviors you think people should really focus on, that they should really grow to become an effective leader? What 3 would you recommend?
First is decisiveness, hands down, decisiveness. I think, you can't wait for the perfect information as a leader. You have to assess, you have to decide, you have to move, then you adjust and pivot if you need to. Momentum and that healthy appetite sometimes for qualified decision-making or risk in startups, particularly in my world, really does matter. So you've got to be able to make a decision and move. You can't sit there off with the fairies going, That's just not going to work. The second is emotional discipline. I think you can feel everything, but you can't lead from everything. Your team takes cues from your energy, so you have to stay really grounded and really clear. You know, one of my favorite musicians said, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. And that quote really does hit home. I've experienced a lot of adversity and personal pain in my own life. I mean, you know, a situation of mine, my little sister was diagnosed with breast cancer, but my team wouldn't have known the pain that I was suffering. Obviously, I communicated it, but they didn't see me breaking down inside.
Yeah.
You need to be able to compartmentalize, and that is a real strength of someone that can lead properly, is separating what is happening in your own life and not letting that filtrate through and impact your business. So that is a really big part, I think, is being able to cope with a lot of stress, filtrating down what you need to for your business to then succeed properly. Then the third big one is ownership and accountability. Leadership means take responsibility for the whole, not just the wins, but the gaps, the misses, the problems, all of it. It's obviously what separates, I believe, good leaders from observers, you know, taking that accountability, being able to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, hey, is that the right course of action? Could I have done better to help my team? You know, everything in a business starts and ends with you. So if you can't be accountable and take responsibility and own that situation, I don't think you should be in the position that you're in.
And, you know, what have you learned being led independently? You've had someone like me lead you independently. You've had other mentors. You haven't got to where you are in life on your own, working it all out. And, you know, in leadership dynamics, when we start with a new client, it's very evident that they're in a world of pain because they've been leading themselves for so long. How important...
Let me pause for a moment and speak directly to the business owners listening. One of the biggest frustrations I see with business owners is you're working hard, but your team really isn't climbing with you. You're solving problems they should be solving. You're chasing accountability. You're carrying the emotional weight of the culture. Leadership can feel lonely. That's why we are launching something called The Climb. It's a leadership community built specifically for small and medium business owners who want to grow strong teams, eliminate the drama, and build a business that doesn't rely solely on them. No fluff, no theory for theory's sake, just practical leadership frameworks, live sessions, mentoring, and a room full of other owners who really get it. We haven't launched it yet, but we're building it right now. If you want to be part of something that sharpens your leadership and strengthens your culture, keep listening. We'll be sharing more soon. Now let's get back to the episode.
Is it for you to have humility and allow someone else to lead you in business in your life so that you can keep climbing to self-actualize and reach the top of the mountain?
It's so important. You need to relinquish your own self-control completely and utterly. Everyone can grow. Everyone can be better. It doesn't matter how far you climb. There's further to keep climbing in every aspect of your life. And sometimes you do need to be able to open yourself up for someone to sit down and go, hold on a minute. Why are you doing that? Really, why are you doing that? You know, there's only so much self-reflection and so much, you know, again, work we can do ourselves. And I think the higher you are, the more you grow, the more you take on, it becomes really crowded for you to be able to do that work. So it's relinquishing that self-control and opening yourself up to people who really do know how to just cut through and get the best out of you so you can grow your business, grow your team, and ultimately have a successful business. It's critical.
And a critical component of effective leadership is allowing yourself to be led. It's so
Exactly.
important that you need to look at who is leading you right now, because if you're leading yourself, you're in big trouble.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Vanessa, I remember the 10 years ago when we were for 4 or 5 years on that leadership journey together in that boardroom there in the CBD there in Sydney, how you not only allowed yourself to be led, but you put people in the team through the program. And how did that impact their lives, growing people in leadership around you? Because you're not an effective leader if you don't grow leaders around you. There's no point you being the leader and you've got a bunch of managers around you. How important is that thinking as an owner and a leader?
It's the most important thing that you can do, is getting your people to become leaders. So ultimately and effectively, they can replace you, or they can go on to do great things and lead elsewhere. We should be leading these people to become the best versions of themselves. And that's why, again, when I first met you, it was obviously I was an executive. It was definitely worth me doing it. That's smart from a business perspective. Let's get our executive team in. But it shouldn't just stop with me. It should come down to the people within the organisation, because they are the leaders of the future. They're the leaders of the now. Everyone has to lead down and they need to lead up, regardless of what place they sit in an organisational structure. And again, it just changes them. It gives them so much to do in regards to their own thinking and how they approach things. I can work with everyone in my business so closely, and I do. You know, it's something that I've always done, but just having that expert come in on the side to be able to really do that critical work changes everything. You become a far more productive team. The culture grows. And again, the business gets the outcomes that it needs. So for me, it's absolutely critical.
We've got business owners here that are listening to a very powerful co-founder. Everyone knows Vanessa's a leader. I mean, you're listening to the power and the conviction of how she speaks about leadership. And so many of the people listening to this podcast right now, Vanessa, want to scale their business. They want to grow. They want to scale. What are some key steps you think they need to implement if they really want to scale and take their business to the next level?
Yeah, look, it's critical. I think everyone needs to scale their business. It doesn't need to scale across the globe, but it could scale within their user group or their audience base. It's something that people really need to think about and focus on. And so for me, when it comes to scaling, there are some key steps that have made a really big difference to me in my business. That is around having a very clear commercial model. People need to understand, one, who pays them, why they pay you, and then how that can grow. Revenue is the growth metric of your business. And if you can, again, as even in startup world, if you can be revenue generating and self-sufficient, you don't need to depend upon VC money coming into your organization and set yourself up for long-term success, you're doing really well. So again, number one for scale is about your revenue. Figure out who it is, where it comes from, why they're paying you, and how you can amplify that. Then it's partnerships. The right kind of partnerships accelerate growth. It's that attention attribution. It provides credibility. It helps you scale faster than if you were trying to do everything alone. The minute you align yourself with another business or a brand that has already that reputation, that loyalty, and that trust, everyone looks to you and goes, great. Well, they must be someone. It does so much work. So it is align yourself to the right partners and secure those partnerships to essentially scale you in the right areas and the right markets. Be very, very strategic about it. The third is focus. So many people get distracted. They want to do everything at once. It doesn't work. You know, it's so easy to want to do a million different things in your business. You know, you get excited. Oh, we could do this, we could do that. It's not going to work. Scaling comes from doing a few things very well, consistently over time, and then building from there. So locking in on what your core focus area is, scaling that, and then starting to build out rather than doing it all from day one. Then the last, which is my biggest passion piece. Sorry, you were going to talk. as
No,
my
keep,
brother.
keep
Right?
going. No.
It's community, Coxie. You know how much I love community and how much I believe in the strength of community.
Yep.
Nothing ever scales in isolation, ever. Whether it's your users, whether it's your team, your partners, and those partnerships I was talking about, or just the people within your little circle in your world, you've really got to build strong foundation around you. It's the thing I always say, it's very cliche, surround yourself with great people and great things happen. That is critical. You are a product of your environment, so is your business. And when that environment is really strong, when it's aligned and it's moving in the same direction, that's when momentum in your organization starts to happen. We have a really strong community in Birdley. It's the foundation really of our business. And without that community and that early adoption and again, growing the users through tried and tested people, we wouldn't be where we are today.
And what is Birdley? What's the vision for Birdley?
Oh, how long do you want me to talk on this, Coxie? This is like we're going big now. No, look.
What's the vision?
Look, Birdley comes from my whole world. As you know, I was a C-suite in media and entertainment for years. I was a C-suite in e-commerce, a C-suite in travel. I left travel pre-pandemic and I saw that there was a huge issue, and that was on the path to purchase, where travelers were dreaming and how that was leading to bookings. So Birdley, we're a travel technology company. We've proudly built it within Australia. It is a platform where creators can be defined in multiple ways. These are writers, they're photographers, they're podcasters, they're influencers, videographers, athletes, DJs. Anyone that has an engaged social community and shares their travel tips to their community in whatever capacity, they can build their own travel business on our technology. They can also build their own travel products and their own travel packages. So that is, Coxie's trip to the Maldives. You can book this. I stayed there for 8 nights with Deb. We had the time of our life, but one and only, Reethi Ra. It was amazing. Book my trip. Coxie, you'd make the money from that. So you'd be able to make the money. Your community could then book that directly through you, through your own travel club. So every creator on our platform has their very own travel club, and that is where they house their packages and their travel products. And the reason I built this is, as I said, so simple. Social media is not only where travelers are inspired, but they're planning their trips, and the creator economy is the future. These individuals, exactly like yourself, have power in community, which is why I said that's part of the core, and audience trust. They're their own brands. I always wanted to remove the barrier of access for them to be able to distribute travel products, to take control of the products, take it out of the big travel companies' hands and put it back into theirs. The people that are actually responsible for inspiring the journey in the first place. Creators have been doing all the work for years, inspiring, influencing, driving intent, but they weren't earning from it properly. Affiliate models do not work. They're just smoke and mirror. They're top of the funnel. That's it. They're broken. And the same time, travelers, they were seeing these amazing lived, shared experiences, but they had no way to book them. It was a fragmented journey. They'd have to go off and try and replicate it. And then the industry, which is obviously where I came from, we had no real way to attribute what was happening when we would work with content creators. What did that piece of content actually drive? How many bookings did it create? How many, heads did we put on those beds? So instead of just sitting there and having these thoughts that I always have going, why is this not happening? I built it. And it was an insanely complex technology build. I've built a master tech stack with our amazing team.
Yeah.
We have one of the best software engineers, I believe, in this country. His name's Igor, and he is just a weapon. And we really have built this truly amazing platform that has changed the landscape. We've really changed inspiration directly to booking with full attribution. And that doesn't exist anywhere in the world. We're the only platform of our kind globally.
And where do you see this business 5 years from now?
It's scaling, growing into multiple markets. We already service the world in different ways. We work with the very best tourism boards globally. They back us and support us. We have hundreds of creators on our platform distributing travel now. It's scaling that. It's expanding out our concierge model. They're the expert agents that sit within our business and just becoming, again, the number one place for people to book their trips.
And you've always loved travel, though. I remember how much you loved travel. You just love jumping on a plane, you and Mike, and going somewhere, don't you? You don't care.
I live to travel, Coxie. It fills and fuels my soul. Yeah. I am a woman of the world, and I live to just see everything and feel everything and meet people in different places. And I don't think outside of music, it's why music and travel were always two areas I kind of intersected between. Nothing connects as deeply as travel. Nothing changes our lives as much as travel. It educates us in ways that even, a great book can't do, because we are living something and taking that back home with us. Travel's an incredibly powerful thing.
Travel gives you gratefulness. Travel gives you thankfulness as well with some of the things you see overseas.
It does. It really opens up your mind. Some things are like, wow, that's beautiful. Some things like, wow, we're really lucky to be where we are. Again, it's that diversity that travel brings forth. And I think it's coming down to, what we talk about with leadership. Travel makes people grow. You go off, you travel solo around the world, particularly as a female on your own, and you see, hear, and will experience things that, you never thought you would in the world. But here you are doing it, and you're pushing through it, and you're building, and you're actually, educating yourself, growing yourself in that same instance. It's remarkable. So to be able to be building technology, scaling technology in an area that I care so deeply about, it's honestly an honor. And I am so unbelievably proud of what we've done. 4 years ago, everyone was telling us no, which is when you've got a good idea, no one wants to believe it. And now everyone's going, wow, this is the future. And that's really when you do sit back and reflect as a startup founder and go, gosh, we've done well.
You've touched on something very important there. You've got to be careful who you listen to, don't you? There's a lot of critics out there. There's a lot of people that don't believe in your dream, don't believe in your vision. How important is the business owner to keep going?
Oh, incredibly important. You have to keep going. If you believe, if the reason you set out to do something sits deep within you, don't listen to what anybody else says. If you fail, you fail, but at least you push through on your own accord. And don't let other people influence you, because in this world, the startup world, everyone, particularly people who aren't experienced in the field that you're building within, will tell you it's a terrible idea. I always use that as fuel. I'm like, great, that means it's a good idea.
And with your love of travel, I know there's a lot of Yellowstone watchers out there, and we're on to the 18th episode of Yellowstone with the new one right now. But you went to Yellowstone. You actually went and rode horses, didn't you, last year? You one of the rewards. Just share a little bit about that, what you got out of that going to that Montana, or what it is, for a couple of days.
Yeah, I was in Montana, but also Wyoming. So 2 different destinations, but 2 working ranches. And was very fortunate to not only experience how the ranch operated on a day-to-day basis, but become part of that. So I was herding cattle for hours upon end on horseback, riding through these beautiful fields, getting cows to move from one paddock to the next. Just seeing how these people live their lives was honestly one of the greatest experiences I've ever done. Not only is it one of the most beautiful parts of the United States, it truly is. You've got these rolling hills, these rivers that run through these fields of dandelions, and you just sit there and go, pinch me. This is just wow. But, you get to see people operating these businesses that have been in their families for generations. It's their lifeblood. And that lifeblood continues through their children. It's multi-generational and they are so passionate about it. And for me to go in as someone that has, been in the tourism industry for so many years and advises so many destinations and so many hotels, to be able to sit with them and just say, you've got something really special here, because they're looking to turn it into an experience where people can come across and have that. It really was just very rewarding. It's not every day that you get to, throw your jeans on, hop on the back of a horse and go herd cattle in the rolling hills of Wyoming. I can do it out on a farm. My husband's family live on a farm, but it's a very different experience than central New South Wales.
What's the biggest personal change you implemented for you to become a better leader? What's something you had to change, something you had to own, something you had to face? Leaders face the truth head on where, I've got to change this about me. What would you say to that?
Look, for me, it was very much about just building for the sake of building. I'm talking specifically now about Birdley. We wanted to do so much and go to market with everything, and that just wasn't right. But again, in a startup, it sounds a lot harder than it sounds, because the nature of early stage startups is that everything is very urgent. Your market will constantly move. So as you're building, the market will shift. So if you don't pivot in your build, then you miss the mark entirely. So you do get trapped into these build cycles. What's true or could have been true, say, 6 months ago isn't true necessarily when you actually go out. So if you're not careful, you end up in a constant state of reaction. Rather than just getting out and then going somewhere. So I had to learn to stop and ask a different set of questions to myself, not what we can build, but what's going to get us out there faster and move the needle, essentially. So that really was the biggest thing. It really changed how I run my own weeks, how I was briefing our team, how I was evaluating what stays on our product roadmap, and then what was getting cut, because ultimately we had to cut quite a lot. And so I held everything up against that same filter. And really, even as I discussed a little bit earlier on, I always brought it back to, is it going to actually drive revenue? Is it going to create value? And how can I then scale the company through this? So that was probably the biggest thing. It's just don't stay in creation mode.
That's a lot of businesses get caught there. That's very good advice for any business owner out there. Sooner or later, you got to pull the trigger. You got to keep moving forward. Get out of just staying creative.
Yeah.
3 key lessons you've learned that set you up for success. What would they be?
First one, I said it before, surround yourself with the right people. Number one, it's critical. The people around you shape your thinking, your standards, and your trajectory. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean surround yourself with yes people. You want a combination of people, but you want people that are just as driven and supportive and doing their own cool things in whatever world that is. The second is not to sit in failure. Mm-hmm. Things won't always go to plan. And this isn't even as a business owner. This is in teams and leading teams. But the moments that happens, that's where you learn the most. And I think you need to be able to move through them. Ultimately, if you fall, get back up again. It makes you more successful. I think a fall is a lesson disguised, and it actually shapes something even better. The third, I think, is define your own path. It's based on, again, the conversation of people telling you things like, oh, that's not going to work, that's not going to work. You need to define your own path. And you don't have to follow what's expected. I'm actually doing a lot of mentor work with people at the moment on this. You don't have to conform to what things say it is, particularly in schools, people coming out into this new world. Some of the best decisions I think I've ever made in my career was stepping off the safe path and then going and building something new. Mm-hmm. It was leaving. I was this chief marketing officer of Vivo, the music streaming service, and I went to travel wholesale. Everyone was like, why? For me, it was the greatest thing I ever did. It set me on the trajectory of where I am now. Right. Even prior to that, when I left media and entertainment and went to e-commerce, I was founding chief marketing officer for a beauty subscription service, scaled them across Asia Pacific, raised investment for them. I was again leaving Nova. I was the head of Nova Create, which is their internal creative agency. Everyone's like, why are you going into startup? E-commerce, and again, it's like these things shape you. So I think you create your path. You drive your destiny and where you want to go. I don't think anything is off limits. If you want to do it, go for it. Reach for the stars. You might not get there, but that's actually okay. You might get somewhere just before it, an awesome planet that's vibing, and it's like, hey, I've landed in the right place. That's what it's all about. It's just, don't think you need to stick to something because that's the way that it's always been done.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, what a dreamer Vanessa Richards is. What energy. I mean, here we are, How to Lead Your Business podcast with Coxie, with co-founder Vanessa Richards from Birdley. We met 10 years ago. You are still the same powerhouse, energetic, vibrant dreamer, driven, relentless. Got to climb.
Got to climb.
Great energy, joy, gratefulness. You're a very special lady, Vanessa, and you know that. You know you've got a special place in Coxie's heart. We've known each other for 10 years. I'm very honoured to interview the people I do on this podcast. You are an amazing human being, Vanessa. You'll be an amazing mother. Absolutely, got no doubt about that. Behind every great man's a better woman. As successful as Mike has been on Today FM, on the morning radio show, and his future trajectory in the radio industry after 25 years. He's very lucky to have you in your life, Vanessa, and he knows that. And, I've met Mike. He's a special human. But I just want to finish off by saying I really appreciate you taking the time to come on Coxie's podcast today. And if there was one final thing you want to say to the listeners right now, they're business owners, they lead teams, what would you say to wrap this up?
Believe in yourself, believe in your people, lock in, go hard, make magic. The world is full of opportunities.
I want to thank you for your time, Vanessa, and we'll see you at Coxie's next How to Lead Your Business podcast. Thank you for your time, Vanessa Richards.
Coxie, appreciate
it. Lovely seeing you.
So much.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
What an incredible conversation with Vanessa Richards. High energy, real and packed with powerful insights. Here are a few standout takeaways from Coxie today. Belief is everything. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Leadership isn't a title, it's how you show up every single day. Scaling a business requires focus, strong partnerships, and a clear revenue model. And success comes from backing yourself, staying resilient, and surrounding yourself with the right people. Vanessa's journey is a reminder that great businesses are built by people who are willing to take risks, stay the course, and keep moving forward, no matter the noise. If you're serious about growing your business and becoming a better leader, this is an episode worth revisiting. Be sure to subscribe to How to Lead Your Business on Spotify and catch all the episodes here. Until next time, keep climbing. And remember, as John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership.